चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं. You are live. Hey, hello everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Can anyone confirm if you can hear me clearly, loud and clear? You can see my screen. Just put yes or no. Okay. Hello. Not audible. Okay. Now audible. Okay. Good, good, good. Okay. So yeah, before we start, we'll take initial 5 minutes just for if you have any questions from the session that we had earlier, and then we'll get started. And in the meantime, if you could see on my screen, okay, we have got our event coming up on September 23rd. That is a Mule Dreaming event. This is again a community event like the other community conferences that the communities are doing. So again, would we would need your help if you could just do a post over social media channels like LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, or you could share with your friends, colleagues, so that it would be really helpful for us to get the maximum number of participants out there. And this would be definitely going to be a really, really great event because we are really targeting on a very I'll say there are basically renowned speakers. There are known name from the communities. People are going to travel from the abroad as well. So just share it, and yeah, please do put your questions if you have any questions in the chat window. If there is any questions, any confusion, keep putting into the chat window, and I'll keep picking up in between somewhere. So this is the agenda that we are going to talk about today. Is like we are going to talk about the data element. So the very first session was mainly for what is flow, what are all its capabilities, what are the different type of input fields, input elements that we could create. We have also seen that how we could easily create the flow, activate it, and use it inside Lightning homepage. Now we are going to work with the data elements that are get records, which is mainly used for getting the record from Salesforce for any object. It could be standard or custom object. Then we are going to talk about create record. That is again, it name itself says that you are going to create a record for any standard or custom object. Update a record. So if you have any existing object that you want to update, we are going to use update record. Delete record is added as its name indicates. This is used for deleting the record. We are not going to touch it, but you could always go ahead and try it by your own. While we will be working with these data elements, we'll also cover some of the logic elements like assignment operator and if else condition. And then at the end, we are also going to cover for loop. So coming back to data elements, that there are multiple, because any processing, any process that we are developing, be it a Apex trigger, be it Apex flow, not Apex flow, be it a Apex batch, scheduled class, flow, any process that we are developing, somehow here and there the process will require some data and like some interaction with the data with the objects in Salesforce. So in Salesforce flow, what is the capability? What are the components that we use for creating the data or getting the data, deleting or updating the data? So as we talked about, we have got four elements: get record, update record, delete record, and create record. So from today onwards, we are going to pick up the scenarios, and those scenarios we are going to implement over here throughout the session. And then you could also, I will highly recommend to go ahead and watch this video again and then try that scenario in your own developer org so that you can get a clear picture. So here is the scenario number one that we are going to talk about today. You are working for a company as an admin Panther Schools, and your TL has given a task that you have to create a lightning flow, and that flow would be responsible for creating a case record from the home page of the sales application. So you have a lightning sales application, you need to create a flow, place that flow inside that home page, and users should be able to create the record from the home page. Also, the same flow should be sitting inside the contact record detail page so that user can also create the case from the contact record detail page. Now, while creating the fields, creating the case, these are the fields that should be available in the screen flow. The subject of the case, description, priority, status, we are going to default it to draft, but if the user wants to change, they can change it. The reason for the case and contact. So these are the this is the scenario that we are going to cover today. This is scenario number one. This is a flow. So you could see here, this is a start screen. We are going to start. Then we are thinking, or we'll assuming that user will log into Salesforce, and then now user has a need to create a record. Okay. So if user has a need to create a record, what they can create a record from the two different places. Either they wanted to create a record from the home page. If they want to create a record from the home page, we are going to display the component where we are going to display the fields like subject, description, priority, case status, case reason, and contact. If the user wants to create the record from the contact detail page, then we are again going to display the same screen that we have displayed over here. The only thing that we are going to make a difference here is, if user is on the contact record detail page, we are going to pre-populate the contact field that is the lookup field on the case object. And then we are going to use the create record element for creating a record. And we are going to check if there is any error. We are going to display the error. If there is no error, we are going to display the success message. So this is just the high level flow that we have. So I would always suggest everyone, whenever you are going to develop a flow, first try to create the flow diagram, how you want it to process, where is going to be the logic. It could be if condition, it could be a get record element, it could be for loop, it could be a DML, it could be creating a resources. So that kind of thing, if you keep developing, if you start working maybe on the paper, or maybe you could use paint, you could use a draw.io. If you have lucid chart, you could use lucid chart, and then draw it and then start working. So as soon as you start working with the drawing these diagrams, the 50% of the problem you'll already solve it in the paper itself. Okay. So now we have got this flow diagram. We have talked about the problem statement. We'll again get back to the problem statement so that we can refer it whenever it is needed. Now we have to create a flow. As we are in the screen flow section, we are only covering the screen flow. So today itself, today as well, we are going to create the screen flow, and you already know how to create a screen flow. So we'll just quickly go ahead and click on that new button to navigate to the screen flow. Now here, once you click on that new button, the same pop-up you will see that we have seen yesterday as well, where you have to select the type of flows. We are going to select a screen flow, and then again you will see a blank flow with all the buttons disabled with start and end element. What you need is, again, if you recall your problem, what is the problem that you are solving here? You have to create the case, and you have to have some input fields so that user can provide the information. So hover over to that little dot between the start and end element and click on the plus icon. And as we talked about yesterday as well, every time you have to display an screen element, you have to either take the input from the user, or you wanted to display some output, you need to use a screen element. So that's what we are going to select here, and we could just give the name as case record flow. The API name will get auto populated. Now in this canvas, what all we need is, we need a status, we need subject, we need description, contact, case reason, and priority. These are some of the fields that we need to create. So we are going to drag and drop each and every field. Now this is again very important for us to understand what kind of field we need to drag and drop into the canvas. So if you go to the case object, because we wanted to create the case record, so we can quickly get back to the any application, it could be sales or service. Go to the case tab, click on new button, and you will see that here are the fields that you have. And we could see that case origin is a required field, so we are also going to add the case origin as well. Now if you see status, priority, case origin, case reason, these are the pick list field. So while we are developing our screen, we need to use the pick list option. We need to drag and drop the pick list input. And if you scroll down, you see subject is a normal text, but description is a text area. So we have to use text area for taking the input for the input field. Once you have find the details about your input fields, just go ahead and drag and drop the fields that you need. So the very first field that we want to drag and drop is subject. Make it as record field. Then we want description. So I'm going to drag and drop the long text area, which comes up automatically when you search for text in the quick search box. And the label, as we are going to use it for description, so provide the label as description and also mark this field as required, because we want to make sure that user is providing the necessary details. After that, we need status, priority, case origin, and case reason. So these are the four pick list field. We are going to drag and drop the pick list field, and these are the single select. So we are just going to drag and drop the single select. We are not going to use multi select. And after dragging and dropping all the four fields, we are going to configure each field one by one. You could also configure the field individually, like you drag and drop a field, and then you just go ahead and configure that input, and then you do the same for the other remaining fields. But I have just dragged and dropped all four fields at once. So the very first one, I'm making it as a status. It is up to you if you want to put a status and then case reason priority like that, or if you want to shuffle the order, that is up to you. You could always change it. Make it as required. And for the choice, now this is a picklist field on the case object. Status is a picklist field on the case object, and there is a high probability that the picklist values can be added and removed in the later point of the business. So we would always want to read the value from the status field of our object itself, so that if there is any new value or existing value, like we are adding a new value or deleting an existing value, we don't need to modify the flow. So in yesterday's session, we have talked about that there would be a, when we are trying to create a choice for our pick list value, if we create a choice, there would be four options. So we are going to select pick list choice set. This pick list choice set is going to give us the information about a pick list. So we are going to say choice, and this is case status. I'm going to name the API name at ch, that represents the choice, and case status. Object, we have case object, so we are going to search for case and select that. Then we have to provide the data type, that is pick list, and then field, so we have to select status field because this is for case status, and click on done. Once you do this, your pick list field is going to get prepared. And if you remember your requirement, the value for status says it should be by default as draft. So we can, if you click on this default value on the text box, you would see there would be some picklist value which will come up for you for that status field. So select new. If you don't have draft, just select new as a value. After status, we need origin. So the label I will choose as case origin. API name again will get auto populated. Make sure it is required as well. And for choice, we again have to create a new choice. And the same similar steps, we are going to select picklist choice set, provide the case API name, and then select the object as case, data type as picklist, and select the field that you want to select here. Then repeat the same for the other two fields like priority. So I'll just quickly do the same now because we have already talked about how to do that. And then after priority and the end, we have case region. So our picklist values are prepared now. And if we see the requirement back, there is one thing that is remaining, which is contact. So we have to create a lookup field, because if you go to the new case record and you see that there is a field called contact name, and that is a lookup field. And in this, what we do actually is we search for the contacts to create the case under which contact we are going to create the case. So that's what we are going to do here. We are again going to drag and drop a lookup field, and here we are going to give the API name. It could be contact name. As we talked about, there would be few required fields. Field API name. So what is our child object? That is case, and the object API name for case is itself case because this is a standard object. Label of the field we will use same as contact name. The API name, the field API name. I know the field API name is contact ID, but how do you get to know? If you don't know, you need to go to object manager, and your child object is case. So search for case, click on the label and go to fields and relationships, search for contact name and select this, copy this field name. This is the API name, the field API name for your lookup field. Now this is the same that you have to use for any custom or standard object. If you have a custom lookup field, you have to do the same. Okay. Now our UI is ready. Once our UI ready, we have to click on save, and then as this is a screen flow, so we are going to say screen colon, and we will say create case record flow, and save this. So once you save this flow, one thing that we have to do is we forgot that as we don't want this header, so we are going to again edit the screen, and then we are going to hide the header so that our header does not display screen something that really looks weird. Okay. And if you click on this little icon on the left side, so you would be able to see all the resources. Under resources, you would be able to see the different types of components, elements that you have created here. So we have one screen element. Okay. Now we have got this screen element. We still have not done the creation part because we have got the screen, and if you want to see, you just need to click on this debug button, Okay. Once you click on this debug button, for the first time, it might take some time to show you this pop-up where you will say run, and you would see the screen that you need. And if you click on finish, it will give us the error for the required fields that we have, and if we have not provided any input. Next thing, when we click on this next button, again, this is a finish button, but we would like to change the button name to create case record or log a case. So again, get back to your screen element, click on that, select edit element, select the footer, configure footer on the right hand side, and for the next or finish button, click on use a custom label and then say log a case. Your button would get changed over here. Hide the pause button because we don't need. Okay. Once user provides the input and click on that log a case button, we need to create the case inside Salesforce. So for that, again, click on that little circle before end, between screen and end, and then click on the plus icon. This time we are going to use data element, and under data element we are going to use create record, because we wanted to create the case record. So we will say create a case record. For the API name, I always recommend use CR for create record, and you could just use anything else that you want, like CR that says create case record. Now, how many records we want to create? We want to create only one record. Then do you want to take the input from a record? We don't have any record as of now. So we will select use separate resources and literal values. And as soon you click on that checkbox, not checkbox, that radio button, the object, it will ask you to select the object, which object you want to create. So we want to create case object. So we will search for case and select the right object. And then here it will ask, provide us the values for creating the record. So what all values we have created in our screen? One is subject. So let's select for subject. Description. So one thing, that any object that you create over here, right? Any object that you select, like case or something else, all the fields under that object are going to appear over here, and those fields will appear which you have permissions to. So if you don't have a permission to a certain fields, those fields will not appear over here. And if you have created the flow and then you went back to the object and created a field, that field will also not be visible here. To make that field visible, you have to refresh the screen once, like after saving your flow. Okay, so we have got description, then we have status, priority, reason, and origin. In the last we have contact. So contact ID is our field. So these are some of the fields that we wanted to provide while we are creating the case record. Now from where, like what value we have to provide here for the subject field? What is the value? So if you remember, we have created a screen where we have taken the input from the user. So we are going to enter on this text box, and from the screen component, select the field, select the component that you have created to take the input for status field, that is subject. Similarly do for description, for status as well, priority, reason, origin. Now for the contact ID, what you have to do is, if you if you click on the input, okay, and if you scroll down under the screen components, you would find there is something called contact name, which is a type of lookup, and there is a little arrow on that element. If you click on that, it will tell you two things. One is the record ID of the contact, and one is the record name of the contact. So you have to select record ID because behind the scene we pass the record ID, Salesforce stores the record ID, and in the front end, in the UI, the users can see the record name of the contact. So we will select record ID and then we will click on done. Go ahead and save your progress again. So far what we did is we have taken the input, we have created the record. Now if you want to debug it, click on debug and then click on run. So here you will see all the input fields. So let's quickly provide some values here because most of them are pick list values, so we are not going to worry about. Contact, I'm going to select batch Davis, and as soon as click on log a case, you will notice that the information on the right hand side will tell us either the case has been created or not, was there any issue or not. Okay, so let's click on log a case and we have got an error here. You clearly see that says there was an unhandled error. Okay, and what is the error? If you want to see here, you could clearly see on the left hand, on the right hand side from the top itself. If we see, there was a screen with the name case record flow. These are the input about each input elements that we have added, like subject, description, status, origin, priority, like all the fields that we have. Then there was a create records, that was the element which we had added here in our screen flow, which gets executed with the values that we have provided, and the result was failed to create a record. And why it failed to create a record? Because there is a trigger on the contact record and that actually did something, and because of that trigger our flow actually got failed. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll quickly go ahead and disable the trigger on my contact object because I really don't need that trigger for now, and then we will retest it. So once I have, after disabling the trigger, I'm going to click on run again. So once we click on run again, and why I'm clicking on run again? Because we have not made any changes in the flow. So the same flow is going to run again. And we just need to provide the information about the status that we have, priority, case reason, and the contact. This time we are going to select batch Levy and click on log a case. And okay, there is also a case on there is also a trigger on the case object. So it says dependent class is invalid. There is an error you might not see. I'll just paste it in the URL. So there is an error called dependent class is invalid and that class needs recompilation. So I'll also quickly go to case object and will disable the trigger. If you get this kind of error, you really don't need to go ahead and disable the trigger. You have to take a look before you actually start, because this is, I'm just doing it because I know that I really don't need the trigger as of now. But in the real time, if you get this kind of errors, you need to make sure you make the changes in your flow, or you just if you are a developer, look into the trigger itself, make the changes. And if you're not a developer, contact to developer and then tell him or her that there is an error, and they will, basically they are going to uh, make the changes, and then you can use your flow. Once again we are going to click on run again, and we'll just say test case description. I'll put what I have just copied earlier for the error. and change the value whatever you want for the pick list fields. Select the contact record. This time I'm selecting batch demo, and we'll click on log a case. Hopefully this time our case will get recorded, and we see that it says all done. That means our flow was successfully executed. And if you see here on the right hand side again, you will see the screen was executed, then create records were executed, and at the end you will see the result, and result will also give you the case record id. If you're not able to see the case record id because of my image or my picture, you would be able to see a record id starting from 500. So this 500 is something that you would be able to see in the bottom. Copy this record id, get back to the case tab, open any case, and then change the record id in the url, the id that you have copied, paste it here in the url and hit enter. So you will see that the case has been created, test case. Go to the details tab, you will see that the contact which we have selected and the account will be auto populated for that contact, and the other information are also auto populated. You could scroll down and see the subject and description of the case that we have just provided. So that is the things that we have done, we have created. Now there was a requirement in the flow that we have seen, because if you have seen, right, there was an error, and the error came, we were able to see the error, but that was unhandled error, and every time this kind of error occurs, we cannot really tell the user that okay, go ahead and contact your admin. We have to basically tell us the clear error, and if there was a success, we need to tell the user okay, the case was created. Okay, so to show the success message in the screen, we are going to click on the plus icon again before the end screen. Select a screen element, we are going to select the label, we are going to say success message, and then here we are going to display the outcome, right? We are going to display the message that okay, the record has been successfully created. So we'll select display text and drag it to and drop it in the canvas section. And here we could say success message as an API name, and in the box that we wanted to display the information. So what information we wanted to display here? So we wanted to say your case with the subject, and then we are going to put the subject name. We will say your case with the subject, whatever the subject user has put has been created. So let's type here your case with the subject. Here we have to provide the subject whatever the user has been put, and we will say has been created. Okay, and then let's just do some formatting here. I'm going to maybe display some sort of greenish color, the message in greenish color you see here. And the subject, how you will see the subject here, how you'll find out which subject you want to display, that you will get when you see there is a search box called insert a resource. So this is the place where you will see all the resources that you have created, including the screen element, including the input on the screen element. So we are going to hit enter and select. What we will select is status, because not status, subject, because we want to display the subject, and we will select the subject under screen component. So if there are any other subject that is coming up for you, don't select, only select the element that is under screen component, and this is how your element will look like: curly braces, then exclamation mark, then the API name of your element, then closing curly braces. That is what we have. Okay, and then we are also going to say click here to visit the record. This here is not a hyperlink as of now. We are not keeping it as a hyperlink. I'll showcase you how you could make this as hyperlink, how you could create a dynamic record link for your case record. Okay. One thing that I would like to tell you that after you use create records element, it actually gives you the record ID of the element. So if you click on again, if you again click on insert a resource, and if you scroll down, so you will say there is going to be a variables section that will say case ID from CR case record. CR case record is the API name of our create records element. So if you use this, we are just using it here. Okay. CR case record, we are putting it here. It will display the record ID of the case object, and we can use this ID to go to the case record. And later on, we will basically go ahead and we will make sure that we are creating a dynamic hyperlink. Okay. So let's click on done. Now this is the part of our success route. Everything goes well. Everything goes successfully, very well. And we are done. But what if there is any error? How we are going to handle the error? Okay. So to do that, we are going to select the create records element, and this is not for the create record. This concept is for the any object. Any object means any data element. It could be create record, delete record, update record. Okay. So if you click on this, you will see there is an option called add fault path. Okay. That add fault path has came up here. So if you click on this, it is going to add a fault path. So if there is any error, if you see any error, okay, a fault path, if there is any error, this path is going to get executed. And if there is no error, this path is going to get executed. And if there is any error, we want to display some error. So to do that, again, you have to hover over, click on plus icon and select screen. And for the label, you could say error screen. API name as usual is going to get auto populated. And here you want to display the error message. Again, anything that you want to display, you could just use display text. API name, we will say error message. Now, how do we get to know which error has been occurred? What is the error that is coming because of which we are not able to create a record? So for this, we are going to use a global variable that is provided by Salesforce itself. And the global variable can be accessed using the $sign. How? Click on insert a resource and scroll down. If you scroll down, you will see there is a category called global variable, and you will see there are multiple global variables. So if you see, I'll explain you one by one. API that is that is mainly used for to get to know the information about your Salesforce org. Flow is a flow is a variable which is used to get the information about your current flow, like what is the flow API name, what is the error message, the current date, that kind of thing will come under flow. $label is used to read the value from a custom label inside your Salesforce org. So if you have a custom label that you wanted to display in your flow, for example, welcome quote or quote of the day, that you could use into your $label with the help, you can access with the help of $label. Then you have got organization to get the information about your org, like the organization name, the address, the locale, that kind of thing you could access with the help of organization. Profile. Profile is the element which gives you the information about the profile of the current logged in user. So if the user is logged in, you wanted to see the profile, you could use the $profile sign. Then we have got user and user role. These are again related to the information about the user and user role. Okay. Now there is a question from Arti like, can you please explain when do we use global variables? So if you might have heard me right, what I said, if you need the information about a current user, how do you know? What is the profile of a user? What is the role of a user? What is the current user ID? If you want to get the information about the current user, you have the global variables you will use. If you have a custom element, custom label sitting inside your Salesforce org, and you wanted to display that custom label in your flow, then you have the dollar label to access the flow dynamically. If you wanted to access the error, if you wanted to access the date field, the current date or current date time, then you have dollar flow. If you wanted to get the dynamic URL of your Salesforce org, then you have dollar API. So that these are some of the variables depending on the use case. Today we are going to use two global variables, dollar flow and dollar label. And based on your need, you will be using the other variables. Like if you want to get the current user ID, you will use the dollar user. You want to get the information about the profile and role, you will use the dollar user role. I hope I am able to answer your question, your query. So the error that comes, that the error which we get while performing any DML in the flow, that comes under dollar flow, and there is a variable called fault message. This actually gives you the information about the error which has been occurred while we try to perform a DML operation. Okay, so let's select fault message, and now the error usually comes in the red color. So we will change the formatting, we'll change the color to red. We will increase the font size, make it center align, and that's it. So our error part has been successfully completed. Okay, and if you want to add some message like an error has been occurred, an unexpected error has been occurred, could you please like we could say, okay, go ahead and check the inputs again and then try again. That kind of information you could put. Okay, and let's say when user click on next on this element, while the user is on this screen, or they click on next, they should see this case case record flow screen again, the input for where we are taking the input from the user. Okay, so for that what you could do is you could click on this plus icon, and then you will see something called connect to element. So click on this, and now you will see there would be plus icon available where you could connect this element. So from the error screen, you want to go to this screen record flow. So click on that plus icon. It will basically make a connection. It will make a route. So if there is any error, it is going to route you to the record screen again to take the input. Okay, and similarly we could do with the success message as well. Once user clicks on finish or success, we wanted to route it to the case record flow. So this is the connection between the multiple screens. If you wanted to get back based on certain conditions, you could always use the connect to element and then connect it back to the different screens that you have in your flow. Now let's go ahead and save it. After saving it, we are going to debug the flow. And if you click on run, now you will see there is a case. And if you say, let's say test case, change whatever the values that you want, select the contact, click on log a case, and this time you will see here your case has been created, and we forgot to hide the header, so that's why the header is coming up. But we see the success message is coming up. We could see the record ID is coming up over here. So one thing that I would like to tell you is, anything that you do while debugging in the screen flow, that is going to commit in the, or that is going to make the changes into your record. So that's why, as we have created the case, we got the case ID. We can get back to the previous case record, change the ID, and if we hit enter after changing the ID in the URL, we will see that the case has been created with the provided details that we have provided for creating the the case record. As there was no error, now if you click on this next button, it will take you again to the screen where we are taking the input from the user to create a case record. So that is what happened. Okay, now let's quickly activate this flow. There are a couple of things that are remaining in this flow itself, but for now we are going to activate this flow. We are going to use this flow inside the record home page, and then we will see what is the behavior, how it is behaving. Okay, so let's get back to the first. We are going to add our flow into the home page. So go to the home page, click on gear icon and edit the page. We have already seen in the yesterday's session that how we could add the flow in the home page or any other place. So let's add it. So what you need to do is, from the left hand side, search for flow, and then within the standard you will find two things: paused, flow interviews, and flow. We need to drag and drop flow where we wanted to put it. Maybe if I want to put it here on the right hand side above the assistant, just put it and then select the flow element, and now you have to change your flow. You have to use your flow which you have just created. In my case it is create case record flow, and then do the save. Once we save it, hit back, we will see that flow is here with the same information, and we can now put the subject something like generator is not working, and provide the other information that you have. Select the contact and click on log a case. You see that a case has been created. The ID has been generated over here. This here keyword is still not hyperlinked. That is fine for us. We will just we can use this record ID to see the case record. We have already seen that the case records are getting created. And you could see here the case has been created over here now. And the same component we wanted to put inside the contact record page as well. So you could see this is my contact record page that we have. We click on this plus icon and select edit page. This is again going to be the same way we have added the component into the home page. So this is my LWC that is added on the right of my contact page. I will delete it because I don't need it. And then I will add the flow here. And after selecting the flow element, the flow here, okay, we'll say first say not one. This is create case record flow. Okay. And if you again click on save, if you know that there activation screen that is coming up for you, so go ahead and then do activate the page. For me it's not coming up because I have already made the changes, and go back. Okay, connection is unstable. Yeah, we are trying to get it back. Something has happened. Just allow us some time. We are really sorry for this glitch, the technical glitch. Yeah, just wait for a couple of minutes, two, three, up to 5 minutes. We are really sorry for this technical glitch. Okay, please confirm once this is okay for everyone. Someone- Okay, hey, everyone, let me know if it is still the same. If you are still able to, the screen is still stuck. Uh, we, I think this is something that we cannot control. So, if you feel that okay, there is some issue, something is happening, please do let us know. Okay, okay, yeah, good. So, shall we proceed further? Okay, it got again stuck. What is happening? Okay, it should be stable now. Okay, okay, I think I can see the network is stable. Okay, good. So yeah, so I think we were trying to add the component, the flow into our Lightning record page, that is contact. So we have added the flow over here. You could see on the right hand side that we have got the flow added here. Okay. Now we could just use the subject, and we have already seen that our flow is working perfectly fine. Okay. One thing that I would like to showcase here is this contact name is not pre-populated with the contact under which we are in. Okay, so if we are in under any contact and we want to create a case, we would like to get this field auto populated. So now there could be any contact under which we are, right? It could be any contact. How we are going to get this record ID dynamically in the flow? Okay, how we are going to get this record ID dynamically in the flow? For that, we have to go to our flow and we have to modify it. Okay, so how we will modify? Now, because we have updated our flow, we have activated our flow. Okay, echo problem is there. Is there anyone else getting echo? Okay, no echo, it's perfect. Okay, maybe Vaibhav, you might wanted to refresh the page once. There could be a problem. Okay, just try it. So what happens when you activate the flow? Okay, it actually creates the version for your flow. First time when you activate the flow, it is like v1, version v1. Now if you wanted to make the changes, the additional changes after you have activated your flow, okay, so if you wanted to activate the flow, no, not activate, if you want to make the change into the flow once you have activated, you cannot make the direct changes. What you have to do is you have to click on this save as button and you have to create a new version. And there, because the concept, the data model of flow is very complicated, so that's why Salesforce says every time you make the changes, like in the process builder, right? What we used to do is after we activate the process builder, we go ahead, clone the process builder, create a new version, and then work on top of that. Similarly, what we do here in the flows, we go ahead, save the process builder as a new version, save the flow builder as a new version, and then work on top of that, so that your previous version that you have created, that will remain intact, and if user are working on that flow, they will be able to work as it is without any issues. Okay, we will click on save. uh, Raman, we are going to take your question in a few minutes, so please be patient. We'll take that question. Now once you click on this save as button, you will see there are two options. Do you want to create a new version of the same flow, or do you want to create a new flow with the same exact content? So we are going to create a new version because we don't want to create a new flow. So go ahead and click on a new version. We'll keep selected a new version as a button and click on save. Now here, what we want to do is we want to read the record ID of the contact in our flow, and we want to make sure it is a dynamic. Okay, so how we will do is, for this we are going to create a variable from the left hand side. If you don't see your toolbar here, toolbox, click on this little icon, you will see the toolbox. Click on new resource, and for the resource type, select variable. Most of the resource type we have already completed, especially this choice, collection choice, we have not completed. Record choice and pick list choice we have completed. Variable we are going to complete it today, and we are also going to complete the formula. So we'll keep working on the resource type as we keep progressing with the sessions. So select variables, and the API name should be exact as it is record ID and where I is in caps. So if you want to read the ID of any record in the flow, when the flow is either sitting on the record detail page or the flow is actually being invoked from the object specific actions, the API name should be as it is record ID. Data type should be text, and you make sure that under the availability outside the flow, you have to check this checkbox as available for input. Now if you say, if you check this checkbox available for input, what will happen is your flow will be able to take the input from the user, or you can pass the input to your flow, and available for output is something that your flow will be giving the output after processing some sort of logic. Now if you don't know that which when you want to choose the variable available for input and available for output, you can check the both check boxes. But it is again always you can always ask yourself, do you need some variable where you have to provide the input? Input could be from a different flow, could be from a user, could be from a record detail page, could be from the input from the admin. Okay, for the record ID, we'll make sure it is available for input. Click on done, and then again click on save. Now before you do activate, click on debug, because you want to make sure that your flow is working fine. Now this time if you see under input variables, it is giving you one input, that is a record ID, and it is asking you to provide the input. If you don't provide, your flow will also run, but it is saying that okay, give us the record ID, and we can just give us any contact record ID here and put that record ID, click on run. And if you provide that record ID, your lookup is still not working. Okay, why your lookup is not pre-populated with the record that we have selected? Because you have to make the change in your lookup field as well. Click on plus icon and click on edit element. Go to your lookup field. Is it is stuck for everyone? Okay, I think Sanket might be. You could check your connection once, because I see it is the connection from my side. It looks good. So coming back to the session, go to the lookup field, and under the record ID, if you remember right, we have to provide our variable that is a record ID. The record ID that we're taking the input from the user. Select that, click on done, and then click on save. Then again do the debug. If you rerun this flow, this is not going to work, because you have made the modifications in your flow. So you have to click on debug, then provide the record ID and click on run. And you will see this time your flow is basically taking the input, pre-populating the contact record for yourself without any issues. Okay, now as you have debugged it, you know that it has worked perfectly fine. Now there is one thing that we wanted to do here. We have also discussed that whenever there is a successful record creation happen, right, the record has been successfully created, so we want to have the hyperlink there. So how the hyperlink works? Okay, how you can create a dynamic hyperlink. So if you see here, this is the hyperlink of your Salesforce org, where you have the base URL, that is this is like https colon forward slash 2 forward slash, then the your domain, then this is a developer org, that is some of the URL that Salesforce says, and then this is the record ID. If you don't even provide anything like lightning or contact view, if you even use this URL and hit enter, your record is going to get navigated to the provided record ID. So if you have provided the record ID of your contact, it is going to navigate to the contact record. If you are providing the record ID of the case, it is going to navigate to the case record. And we have already seen that how we could get the record ID. We know that once we create a record, we get the record ID. Okay, so for that, what all we need is we need this base URL. Now this base URL is different for my org, base URL is different for your org, it will be different for someone, like every org will have a different base URL. So how you will get it dynamically? So to get it dynamic, what we will do is we will create a formula. And we all know that we everyone is working on Salesforce technology, and I'm assuming that everyone know that there is a formula field, and that formula field is a calculated field. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to go to flow. While we are on the flow itself, we have to go to flow, click on new resource, and this time we are going to create a formula. And here, when you are creating a formula, just start with fm, that says formula, and then give the base url. This is the org base url. Okay, data type, this is going to be text. Now here we have to get the formula. So how we are going to get the formula, or how we are going to get the base url of our org? So if you click on insert resource, remember there is something called a $API global variable. So if you click on that, you will see there would be multiple URLs over here. Like some will say enterprise server URL, some will say partner server URL, and there are multiple variations for this, like 110, uh, 111, 120, 130, like that. There are various URLs. Okay, so these URLs actually gives you the different URL for your org. What we are concerned about is the partner URL. Okay, because enterprise URLs are tightly coupled and partner URLs are loosely coupled. So even if the sandbox refresh happens, the URL gets changed, our formula will remain intact and we don't need to make any changes. Okay, now the question is which one to choose among all these. Okay, so there is something called partner underscore server underscore URL underscore 260. This is the one that we are going to use for getting the org based URL. Now if you, we don't need to do anything, just click on check syntax, click on done, and click on save. We have just created the very basic formula to get the base URL. Okay, so we'll click on again, because we wanted to see what is the outcome of that formula. We are going to edit the screen, the very first screen. Click on edit element, and here on the top itself we are going to use a display text. Okay, and we will give the name as org base URL. Again, you don't need to do it in the real time. All I'm doing is I wanted to showcase you what would be the value of that URL. Okay, and then what part of the URL we need. So we are going to go to the insert resource and select formula that we have and click on done and save it. Then let's debug the flow. Now we have got this input variable. We can provide if we want. For now we can just ignore it. Click on run. So if you see, this is the base URL. This is the complete URL that we see. It is a pending services as soap u, the version that is 26.0, and this is the org ID. Okay, now if you want to change the formula, for example, we get back and change the formula and we select something else. Instead of 260 we are selecting some other partner URLs. Okay, let's say we are going to say API dot partner, and we are going to select someone which is like 580. This is the one which looks kind of the latest one. Okay, I'll tell you how this URL is being constructed. Click on done and let's save it, and we are going to debug. And if you run it now, you will see here how it is happening. The same thing that we are getting, the only thing that is getting changed is the version of your Salesforce org. This is 58. This is the latest version. Now let me tell you why it is happening. Earlier what we used was 260. Now what we used is 580. So what is happening? What is the latest version of Salesforce? The API version, that is 58. That's why it says 580. If you again insert resource, go to API, you will see that these are nothing. These are the URLs for every release. They have 60, 70, 80, 100, like 10, 11. These are for every version. Okay. So it is always recommended to use the latest one. If not latest, at least near latest. Because if you develop your formula today, it is quite obvious that you are not going to modify it after 2 or 3 or 5 years. Maybe later than you modify if Salesforce is deprecating the API versions. Okay. But if you see this, we really don't need the complete URL. What we need is we need the URL up to here before services. We need that URL, and after that, if we append the record ID, our record will get navigated to the record detail page. So what we will do is we are going to use the formula that I already have. So this is the formula. I'll just explain you quickly. What we are saying is, what we said is, if we divide this URL into two parts, so after this the first forward slash from where the services starts, we can consider that is the right part of the URL, and before services we can consider as the left part of the URL. So what we are saying is we want to get the left portion of the URL before services. So that's what we did here. We said, okay, get the left from this URL, and we have to tell which portion we need. So we are saying, okay, find services in this URL. We have to make sure we are using both, like we are using the correct API name, both the places, and that's it. So we just find the services, we extracted the left part, and we are done with the URL. And now if you click on this done, do again the save for your flow, debug it. This time you will see that you are able to see the base URL. Now this formula that I'm going to put it here in the chat as well, this formula is going to work dynamically for any org. It could be sandbox, it could be production org as well. Okay, so for both the orgs this formula is going to work perfectly fine. Now all you need is you need to copy the API name of your formula, go to the success screen, because this is where you want to prepare the URL. Okay, and then here is the keyword which you want to make it as hyperlink. So click on the here, then you will see there is something called there is link here in the toolbox of your rich text area. Click on that link, and here it will ask you to provide the link URL. So how you will provide is just use opening and closing curly braces, use exclamation mark, and paste the API name of your formula that you have that you have used. Or what you could do is you could just go to insert resource and use your formula. Okay, so this is your formula that you have inserted. Now you have your formula, you have your ID here. So you really don't need to do anything. Just use the formula API name, just use the record ID that you're getting. Okay, copy or cut it, then click on here keyword, click on this link icon and paste what you have just copied. Because our URL already have a forward slash, so we don't need that. Click on save, and you will see now here has become the hyperlink. Click on done, save the flow, and then debug it, because debugging is very important. Without debugging, do not activate your flow. Okay, now we will say test case with URL. Select the contact from the lookup field and log a case. So if you log a case, you will see here is now hyperlinked. If you hover over or if you click on that link, it is going to navigate to the case that you have just created. That means your flow is working perfectly fine. You can go ahead and activate this. Now let me take the question that Raman has asked. What is the order management, select store and location group in, and many more field like that in the screen flow under the input type. So Raman, there is a product that Salesforce has came up, which is order management itself. Okay, and that product actually provides the multiple core actions for themselves to work with the order management processing, like from which location the order has to be uh, shipped, for which location the order is going to be delivered. So that kind of core actions are there, and that is why there are multiple input types that you see in your flow. Why do you add record ID in a link later and not in formula? Is there any specific reason? There is no such specific reason. If you want, you could try to put it here. I've never tried, but if you want, you could go ahead and edit your formula and try to use here. Get the variable that is case ID from CR case record and do the check syntax. And if it works for you, it is well and good. The reason it is giving us the error because this variable has not been calculated yet. There is no value in this variable. This is not there yet. So that's why we have used that record ID in the hyperlink, not in the formula. Okay. So that's what we have. Now, if you go ahead and refresh this page, while we are on the contact page itself, you could see here the contact name is still not populated, but we have added that record ID in our flow. So what is the reason? The reason is that while we are using our flow in the record page and we have some input variables, we are going to pass those variables. So for that, we will again edit the record page, and as we want to pass the record ID of the particular object, so what we have to do is, once you are on the record edit page, click on edit, sorry, not edit, select your flow, and then now you will see that there is a record ID variable that is asking the input from us. So what we have to do is we have to check this checkbox which says pass record ID into this variable. So we will check this checkbox and we will save it. After saving this flow, get back to your contact or any object record page. Once you open, this time you will see that contact has been auto populated. Now if you go to any other contact, like I'm going to open the James, you will see James is auto populated. If I open any other contact, that particular contact will get auto populated in the lookup field, and we really don't need to auto populate. We really don't need to search while we are on the record page. But we yet need to have, we still need to select the record while we are on the home page. So I think that's it. We had a couple of more scenarios, but I believe we have already spent so much time on this, so I don't want to continue anymore. We will definitely cover the next things in the coming videos. Any questions that you have? Anyone have any other questions? Anything? So uh, the best practices for API naming convention, we keep talking about every time we do create something new. We're talking about the best practices, right? For example, we created the formula. We talked about FM. We created choice, we talked about CH. We created create record, we talked about CR, right? So if you are using a get record, we will talk about GR. If you're taking delete record, we'll talk about DR. Okay. So there would be multiple, like every time we add anything, if you're creating a variable, we will say where. So that kind of things we are going to uh, keep adding there, and we cannot tell everything at once. We'll definitely cover at the last. But if you pay attention, you will see the best practices we are putting all together while writing that. It's very clear, but seems making hyperlink is very tricky. Uh, when you start, when you works for the first time, yes, it is tricky, but that's why I have added that formula in the chat so that you all can get it and use it without uh, putting your head around. Okay. How to check for the duplicate contacts? So if you're talking about the pop-up that I do see when I open the contact, that is basically coming because of the standard duplicate rules and the standard components that Salesforce has provided. And if you want to check the duplicate records in the flow, we will talk about some of the scenarios when we are working with the screen flows. From where we learn formula in Salesforce, the best place to learn formula is to start from the help.salesforce.com. That is the best place. There is nothing, uh, like I would say, there is no best place rather than documentation, the Salesforce document itself. So learn from those documentation. Please share the practical scenario. So I think yes, we will do share the practical scenarios. For 2 days, we really don't have much to share because we haven't covered anything. We spent almost, I think, 80 minutes, but trust me, this is nothing. We haven't covered anything. We just covered get record, the basic things. We covered the formula, we covered the success, we covered the fault screens. These are the very basic things that we have covered. As soon as we'll cover multiple things, we'll keep giving you the scenario. We have the scenarios with us, and we'll definitely share those scenarios with you. So for now, I would say just go ahead, watch this video again, practice again and again, and if you have a question, you can come up with your questions. Yeah, anyone else? And again, thanks everyone for joining. I was expecting much crowd, to be honest, because but that's fine. Uh, whoever has joined, really appreciate. If you have not joined our Telegram channel, followed us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, just uh, go ahead, follow us there. Subscribe our channel, share with your colleagues, with your friends, so that everyone can get benefited. If anyone else has any other questions, please put into the chat window, or you can also put into the comment section. And again, if you have some scenario that you want us to cover throughout the session, please share with us, and we will definitely cover that scenario whenever it is appropriate. So don't think like that you shared the scenario today and we are not covering tomorrow. We will cover when we will see that okay, this is the appropriate time and this is the correct, uh, we will say, correct process or the correct format where we wanted to cover that session. Okay, so we will definitely do that. Time is again 9 p.m. IST. We will be live on next Saturday, and there are more possibilities that will also go live on Friday as well. So if you'll go Friday, keep watching us on the LinkedIn, Panther Schools. Keep watching us on uh, Telegram channel. The links are pinned, so just go ahead, find those links, follow us, and also help us in order to get more uh, participants here for the series. I have a custom object policy which has a lookup in on itself. Okay, so you could always use a lookup component if you want to use lookup, like we have seen in yesterday's session where we talked about the parent account on the account itself. It will be very helpful for many of us if we can do, if we can have few quick questions at the end of the session. That's a good suggestion. But as I said, we are only two sessions. Okay, we haven't covered as such anything that we come up with the quiz scenarios, but we will definitely come up with the quiz scenarios. We'll definitely put the blog post so you can also check that. And if you miss anything, you can get from there. Okay, so it says, okay, you have a custom object policy that has a lookup in itself. Now you need to calculate the total amount of both. So the flow will run on the current policy. Will it perform flow on the will it? So Aditya, again, I'm not sure what exactly your requirement is, but I see that this is not a screen flow. So I would say either you could ping me personally over LinkedIn or over Telegram, and then we can discuss about this because this is a record trigger flow, and I don't want to cover it today. I don't so that people are not getting confused. We'll cover it. You could share the complete scenario with us, and we could try to replicate it so that everyone can learn. Okay, these videos are end of okay, end of searching of flow in YouTube. I don't see the complete question. What exactly it is? Okay. Okay, these videos are end of searching of flow videos in YouTube. I cannot help on this. Maybe you could help. You could search like flow series by Panther Schools, and that those will come. Those will start coming on the top. You could also share with the people. You could say that okay, uh, keep watching. There is a series that is where you guys can help us in order to come on the top, in order to maybe get more engagements. So you can just uh, share all those details with your friends, colleagues, search with our YouTube channel name so that these will come on the top. Preparing for Salesforce admin certification. Can you suggest any sources rather than Trailhead? I'm working on Trailhead as well. This is something that you can connect me offline. Off the record, you can connect me offline. Can we show created records in the same screen? In the same screen, no, no, you cannot see. I don't know what you are asking actually when you say created record in the same screen. So if you wanted to have the output something like this, okay, you created a record, then you have a record ID, and if you click on next, it displays the complete record. You can do that. You already have that information. But I don't see your requirement. I don't see your, I'll say, actual requirement where you have to display the information in the same screen. But there would be cases you would definitely be able to do that. And yes, there is an answer that Aman has put. The related list is always there. So if you create a record, the record will be there in the related list. So you could do that. Any other questions? Or yeah, even if you have a question, please feel free to put into the comment section, and we will take a look. We'll answer those. As I said, share it with your friends. Do like, share, subscribe, press that bell icon, and ask the question. Share the scenarios with us. We will meet you in our next live session. Any questions you could either put in the comment section or you could reach out to me over LinkedIn. All the links are pinned into this chat itself, so you can get those links. So with this, we would like to say good night, everyone. Good day, everyone. Thanks again for joining. Thanks for making this engaging session. The help that we need is please do share with your friends, colleagues, all around so that everyone can uh, help us. Okay. Thanks, everyone.